What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. In this one, it's final thoughts ahead of game week 15. It's kind of a final thoughts / game week preview mashup. I'm going to go through some of the questions that I've not had a chance to kind of tackle too much, and you've not had a chance to ask me because it was a quick turnaround and all that good stuff. And I'm going to go through kind of my final thoughts about my team. I'm pretty sure I know what transfer I'm going to make now, but I haven't yet made it. I'm going to wait to see if there's any embargoed quotes tonight or just anything that might change my mind. I don't even know what the price change situation is, so I'll probably check that before tonight as well, just to see if I need to make the transfers today or tomorrow. But I'll go through that a bit later on. Otherwise, we're going to go through some just important news, topics, questions, and stuff like that. One take as always. Give it a like if you enjoy it. Hit that subscribe button if you're new around here. Let's look at the first bit of news, which is Chelsea press conference news. So it's worth, I think Chelsea and Man City were probably the biggest bits of news from the press conferences today. Annoyingly, for FPL purposes, Rangnick had a press conference, but because it was his first one, a lot of the questions were around his appointment, how he's feeling, what his philosophy is going to be, what he needs to change at the club, transfers, all that kind of stuff. As far as I know, there was literally nothing about team news. Now, we might get it in embargoed quotes later on Twitter around 10:30, but we don't know for sure. So whether Ronaldo's fit or not, we just don't know. I will say, because there is like speculation that maybe he's injured, right? It did almost looked like he had a knock when he came off, but I also think he was just knackered, and he did kind of run. I wouldn't say he sprinted, but he ran down the tunnel as well when he came off, so I think he's probably okay. But as for Chelsea, the big news is that Reece James is available. So I'd be very, 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 very surprised if he doesn't start against West Ham, because I think they need him. The annoying thing is, for anyone with kind of double Chelsea defence, which I might be on after tonight, so ahead of game week 15, Kovacic and Kante are still out. Chalobah's also missing as well. We know that Chilwell's out. So they are missing some midfielders, and Sal wasn't very good against Watford. He came off. Obviously, Alonso wasn't great either. There was a quote, or there was a question around Sal and obviously Alonso backup and stuff like that. There's a lot of people in the media that just really want Alonso not to play left wing back, and I get it, right? Lots of Chelsea fans think he's rubbish. I'm not sure that Sal is the answer, but who knows? I've not seen him play at left wing back, so maybe he's brilliant. But Tuchel did say they might use him there because, again, he reiterated that Alonso cannot play all the games over Christmas, which is fair enough. You wouldn't expect him to. But Chelsea do have Champions League game, and I think they've got a League Cup game as well, that they don't necessarily need to play Alonso into. That could be the games he gets rotated in, but not necessarily. He could play them, and Sal, whoever, could come in at left wing back in the Premier League. He did also say it might suit Sal a bit better if they're kind of dominating possession, so maybe against an easier team. So look, I think Alonso's still first choice for now. It's still his spot to lose, but he is probably going to get rotated at some point. It could be in the league, just like Reece James could get rotated in the league, etc., etc. Like same for all the players. So Alonso, I still think he's first choice. I still think he's quite a good option. I'm probably going to bring him in. And Reece James is available. That's probably the biggest news. Next up is Man City. So your point of view on whether this is good news or not will depend on who you own. So basically, Pep said that apart from Ferran Torres, everybody else is available. So if you had one of the players that missed out in the last game, Walker, Gundogan, all those kind of players, they're now available. And I think everyone is travelling for the game, apart from Ferran Torres. The problem is this now gives Pep almost unlimited changes that he could possibly make. Now, some of these players are going to need minutes, especially like De Bruyne, I would say, after he's just back, hasn't played for a little while. So they do have a Champions League game that for them doesn't matter. So they could bring players in to get minutes in that game and take out the likes of Bernardo Silva. Cancelo probably really needs a rest at this point, started every single league game. So they could do that in the Champions League, but of course it doesn't always work like that, so we don't know yet. But that is something to think about. So if you're on a Man City midfielder, especially if it's someone like Bernardo Silva or Gundogan, I think you definitely stick. I don't know why you'd sell. I'd probably say the same for Foden as well. I think there's a good chance that he starts. Obviously, it's really difficult to call. But going forward, they've now got a lot of options. And the problem with Man City is they score a lot of goals, and they will continue to score a lot of goals, but you don't know who's going to get the points every single week. Now, looking ahead for future transfers, and I'm going to get on to Cristiano Ronaldo in a little bit. If there's money to go around, one of the spots where, you know, everyone's got like premium defenders and people will decide what they want to do with the forwards. The other option is kind of Man City midfielders, but who to go for going forward is really difficult. I cannot help but just know in the back of my mind how kind of poor for someone that starts every game, how poor Bernardo Silva's kind of expected data is, where I'm just not convinced he's going to keep scoring. Although, if he keeps playing false 9 or playing as a number 9, then he could do really well. But I'm just not convinced around him. Gundogan I really like, but with De Bruyne back, like, when De Bruyne is fit, he almost always plays. So that's one less spot for kind of Gundogan, Bernardo Silva, depending on how they're going to line up. One of them could play as a number 9, but then that means one less spot for Foden, Sterling, Jesus. And this is the problem with Man City. If I was buying a Man City attacker for the run, and let's just remind ourselves that the run is pretty good. So it starts off with Watford away today, Wolves at home, Leeds at home, Newcastle away, Leicester at home, Brentford away. It's a pretty good fixture run. For myself, just for my team, just because of the way it's set up, Game Week 17 maybe when I'm going to enter the Man City attacker race. I don't think I can jump on this early. Look, fair enough, there's lots of people that are going to get plenty of... Like, whichever player starts against Watford has got a good chance of hauling. But I'm probably going to get on here. But if I was going to buy one this week, it'd probably be Jesus to take up a forward slot. Or I still think I'd go for Foden, because I think when he was fit, he started every single game. It was only because he got injured that he came out of the team. Now, one of the problems with Pep sometimes is, apart from the general rotation, that sometimes a player just plays themselves into first 11, and a lot of the players that have come in, like even Sterling got praised the other day, Jesus has been playing well, Grealish they're not just going to permanently bench, De Bruyne has to play, and again, you kind of get the idea here, there's always going to be concerns around minutes, so as good as Man City players are, if they're not on the pitch, they cannot get you points. But I still would back Foden. So I think Foden and Jesus are the two that I would look at. Just because I don't really like Bernardo Silva as an option. But again, I've been wrong all season about him. I may continue to be wrong about him. But he's just not someone I'm looking to bring in. But if I had anyone else, like Gundogan, etc., I just hold them and see what happens. If they start against Watford, happy days. And if they don't, there's a good chance they start against Wolves. If they don't, play in the Champions League. So you just have to wait and see. But yeah, everyone is available for Man City. I think Foden and Jesus is probably where I'll be looking at right now. Who knows? That could change again next week. You just don't know, right? We'll do this one really quickly because really this is a question for next week. What do you think about keeping Rafinha during these horrible game weeks? So yeah, it is a pretty poor fixture run for Rafinha. We know all about it. I would definitely, especially if you have to take a hit, I would definitely keep Rafinha for this week. Ayling and Bamford should both be available, but that doesn't mean that they're going to start, right? They could start from the bench, essentially. So be on the bench and maybe come on. And especially in Bamford's case, well, and Ayling's, to be honest, they've been out for so long. Personally, I'm not expecting them to start. But I think when they get minutes, that's good for Rafinha. So he should be good for this week. If we just look at the fixtures after Brentford at home, like was on the screen then, Chelsea to Liverpool is pretty poor. The games afterwards are quite good. I can see a situation for some people's teams where they've got such a good squad, they can just bench Rafinha. And is having a player, okay, it's bad fixtures, but Bamford and Ayling back helps Leeds for sure, helps Rafinha. Is it that bad having a player on your bench that's pretty much going to play every single game, 80 to 90 minutes, really good underlying stats? Possibly not. So if you've got like 4 or 5 premium defenders, you got a pretty good midfield with only one kind of dud, like a Brownhill or a Basuma, someone like that. You've got like King, Antonio, and maybe another cheap forward up front. I don't necessarily think that Rafinha is like a must-sell. By the way, I also don't think you have to keep him because these 4 fixtures are about... They literally are as bad as it could get, right? The only maybe worse fixtures if it was Man United away when Man United were playing really well. But right now, they ain't no good in defence. So it's not that much worse having to play Arsenal. But you could get rid for someone like Bowen, for example. But if your squad can carry you through and you've got other transfers to make, I don't think holding Rafinha on the bench is that bad of an idea. Over Christmas, when I've just had to spend a lot of time saying that I basically just don't know which Man City midfielders are going to start every single week, I know that Rafinha is going to start pretty much every single week unless he's injured. So it feels a little bit like the Antonio trap, keeping a good player through bad fixtures. And I definitely think you can sell him. But if you've got other stuff to do, a bit like with Antonio, and you want a player on the bench who's going to play every single week, Rafinha is not that bad of an option. But I still think over these 4 game weeks, Bowen will probably outscore him, but maybe not this week because he's got Chelsea at home. Am I still confident, good question this, about moving Kane to a mid-price striker, or do penalties make Ronaldo worth the price tag? So penalties, I think I talked about this a little bit in team selection. Penalties definitely change things, and I know everyone's saying that there's less penalties this season, but just like how there were a lot of penalties last year and we couldn't predict there was going to be a drop-off, I'm not sure because there's been a drop-off we can predict that it's never going to go back up again. So at some point we might start getting more penalties. Man United might win a few. Suddenly Ronaldo gets mega hauls. Happy days, right? I do think there was some rule change at the start of the season. So referees are definitely letting more stuff go this year. Like, there really has to be kind of intentional force or enough force for a player to go down to be awarded a penalty. But there's nothing to say that Man United don't get a few over Christmas, right? So him being on penalties, and I do think he'll probably keep them, but I was wrong earlier on in the season about this, so who knows for sure. But I do think it makes a difference with him, because suddenly it's 12.3 million. He's probably going to go up to 12.4 million. With penalties, that might be worth the price tag. But, and I keep coming back to this, I'm like a broken record, I know. When are we captaining him? That's my question. When are we captaining him? And my instinct is just never, right? In these fixtures, like even game week 20, Burnley at home, possibly, because Salah might be going for African Cup of Nations at this point, I don't know. But if he's available, I'd happily captain Salah against Leicester, just given how good he is so far. And I do think, nothing to do with pressing or all this rubbish, because of his age, like we've already seen him get missed a couple of games in the league, right, so far. So there was the Chelsea game, and obviously he came on. There was the Everton game, and obviously he came on in that one as well. So I don't think he's ever going to miss a whole game, but you are going to get cameo appearances like that. And I think there is a chance that over these quick succession games, so 11th to the 14th of December, over Christmas, 27th of December, then the 30th, then the 3rd of January, he probably is going to miss maybe 1 or 2 games. And again, broken record alert, so are a lot of players. So maybe it's not the thing that needs to put you off. But I think you'd really have to be happy about the rest of your squad to have him in. Now, what I'll say is, I am taking the easy way out of this question for my own team. And I'm going to set myself up in a position where next week I can either go to Ronaldo or I can wait and then spread the cash around. Because honestly, I'm not that sure. Like, if I bring my team up, I know I've already shown you it a few times already. If I go for so my transfer, I'll just come on to it now, right? My transfers are probably going to be Josh King in to give myself some extra bench cover, and I'm probably going to bring in Alonso for Bamidele, right? That's probably going to be my transfer. I don't really see any good reason not to do it. I have started overthinking a little bit that around this period, they got Liverpool, Man City, Spurs, not great fixtures, and then 2 blank game weeks. So realistically, if I'm getting a Chelsea defender in now, it's 6 weeks, and I've probably got to start looking to get rid of them, and I'm going to have 2, so I'm going to have to get rid of both, because I'm not going to carry them through these fixtures, right? They're awful, plus 2 blanks, so I'm going to have to get rid of them. So part of me thought, could I go to Diaz instead? Because Diaz is just going to play most of the fixtures, and he's got really good fixtures for like a very long time, right? Like Diaz's fixtures are all good pretty much up to game week 25. But I think I want Alonso while he's fairly nailed for the next 6 fixtures, and then I'll just reassess. I can always just move one on, then one on the next week or whatever, right? We'll worry about that in 6 game weeks time, but it is something that's already on my mind. So that's probably going to be my transfers. And then I've got 0.5 million left over. So that over lets me do Kane to Ronaldo. Even if Ronaldo goes up and Kane drops in price, I'll still be able to afford that just about. And I can just do that. And then it depends if I'm just happy with the rest of the squad. Am I happy holding Mbeumo and holding Saka for a little bit longer? The good news is Mbeumo has Watford in game week 16, so I don't feel in a rush to get rid of him like a lot of other people do. And Saka has Everton, Southampton, West Ham, Leeds, Norwich. So there's no real rush to get rid of him either. And Saka to Bowen is always a good get out anyway, because I think, especially from game week 18, West Ham's fixtures are really good. So I've got the option of going Kane to Ronaldo. Obviously, I'm not going to have this much money in the bank by the time I make the move, because Ronaldo is going to go up. He only went down in price last week, but he's going to go back up again. So it doesn't leave me much money to play with. That's my only concern. I could go, instead of King, I could go all the way to Davis instead and just completely tank this spot. My main issue is I don't know if I want to do that this week. So I don't want to make the decision this week, but I've got to, because I've got 2 free transfers. That gives me 1.7 million spent, and that probably is a little bit better for the midfield. But maybe if I really needed to do that, I could do that later on. So ultimately, Ronaldo comes in. Or if I get to next week and I've made these transfers for Alonso, and I decide I don't really want Ronaldo, although not knowing that I can bring him in for Norwich and not doing it will be very difficult. But for the last few weeks, okay, and it might have been different if Kane had smashed it, right? Granted, I might have felt a bit better about the transfer, but I felt really kind of hamstrung by having Kane in my team and not having much flexibility to go to a Man City midfielder, go to a Man United midfielder now if I want to have the 4 at the back as well and have a good squad. I've just not been in that position, so I don't know if I do want to go to Ronaldo. So to answer the question, or to not answer the question, am I confident? I'm less confident now he's on penalties. I'm less confident now that Rangnick has said he's going to essentially build the team around the players he has, and Ronaldo is going to be a key part of that. So I am less confident in going for a mid-price player, but I still stand by the fact I just don't see when I'm going to captain him while Salah's around, and that is a big point in where to spend the money. So if a Man City midfielder becomes clear, if Sancho shows me something in Palace against Palace that makes me think I need to buy him, these could all be things that make me not buy Ronaldo and just spread the cash around elsewhere. So ultimately, I'm going to probably bring in Josh King and Alonso, and I haven't decided on Ronaldo. I'm going to decide next week. And realistically, I think I'm going to get to that game week, see Norwich, and just not be able to resist. And at the end of the day, you can always get him in for a few weeks and then you spread the cash around. Because like I said, Saka's fine to hold for a few weeks. So it's not like my squad will be in dire need of getting rid of him. So we'll see what happens next week. Is it just impossible to captain anyone other than Salah when he's 190% effective ownership every week? Is it spoiling the game? Spoiling the game really depends on your viewpoint, because in some ways, because everyone's going for Salah, for once you're not worried about other players being above 100% effective ownership. We might get that with Ronaldo at some point. But if you remember early on in the season, like some weeks you'd go in and like Lukaku, Ronaldo, Antonio and Salah would all be over 100% effective ownership, which meant that if you owned any of them and didn't captain them, any points they got gave you a red arrow. At least now, you're basically gaining points from anyone that's not Salah in your team. Okay, maybe not Jota and Trent now because they're so highly owned, but most other players, like if I go into this week, and if somehow Mboma gets an attack and return or Saka gets an attack and return, that's points straight away. If Antonio gets a return, Kane gets a return, that's green arrows straight away. Same for Alonso, James, Cancelo. To a certain extent, obviously to a bit of a lesser extent. So in some ways I kind of like it because captaincy is not the deciding factor. But on the other hand, for someone that's just dropped to 158k rank, captaincy is often... when they're, and I'm not saying like I wouldn't captain Salah anyway, because I would, because he's great. But sometimes you get those weeks where maybe he's playing a more difficult team and there's a couple of other options. And if you get the other option correct, you get a nice rank boost. And that's not really happening right now. So I think we just ride it out. He's not going to be a permanent captain for the rest of the season, especially when he's at African Cup of Nations. There will be a time when someone else starts playing well, maybe he's not playing as well, or Liverpool have a bit of a downturn. That will happen at some point. It could just be a while away. So it's not impossible. Kane and Son are definitely contenders this week, but you've got to be really brave to do it. Like, what did we see from Spurs yesterday that made me think we need to captain them, other than the fact it's Norwich at home, which is a really good reason to captain someone, by the way. But Salah, even though he's playing a Wolves team that can be pretty good defensively, you have to counterbalance that with the fact that Liverpool just looks so good right now. Like, ridiculously good. Like... teams just can't keep up with them, like against Everton. It's like they're playing at a higher speed to everyone else. You know, like how sometimes teams do really well and they say, well, they never got out of first gear. It's like Liverpool have found kind of 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th gear when they attack and no one can stop them. So it's difficult to not go for Salah. And this is part of the problem with Ronaldo, right? Because Salah's just looking so good right now. And in 16 and 17, Villa at home, Newcastle at home, who's going to back against Salah? No one. And I'm not going to do it this week either. So I think if Kane had scored a hat-trick yesterday against Brentford, I still wouldn't be 100% sure if I wanted to captain him against Norwich. That's just how good Salah is right now. And some of it is, you can call it fear, whatever you want. It is. I don't want to back against that effective ownership, but also because I know how good Salah is. It's not that I'm not going into this week thinking Salah's probably going to blank, but I'm too afraid not to captain him. I'm thinking I'm a little bit afraid. And also, Salah ain't going to blank. He's probably going to smash it again because that's how good he is right now. And Wolves are decent, but the Wolves are decent, but Liverpool are up here right now. Like, Liverpool are almost ahead of everyone else. When it comes to attack, especially, even Man City, maybe they're very close together. So, is it spoiling the game? Not really. Although if we go the whole season where everyone is just captaining Salah for the next 24 or 23, 24 game weeks, yeah, that does kind of suck. It's not impossible. It's just difficult right now. I was going to do my team, but I've kind of already done it. I think I'm going to do King and Alonso. I could just do King and Roll. And the fact that James is fit now, means that I could play Livramento, but I'm pretty sure even if I didn't get Ronaldo next week, all I would do is downgrade Kane and just buy Alonso anyway. So I think I'm just going to get it done this week and just hope that West Ham struggle against Chelsea, maybe even that Antonio blanks again, and that James or Alonso can maybe get some attacking returns. It's going to be difficult because West Ham are a good team, but I think that's where I'm going to go. At that point, let me just put Alonso back in. At this point with my squad, I know it's taken me a while to catch up, and I know Saka and Mboma are slight issues longer term. Maybe, a lot of people will say they're issues this week. But I feel like once Game Week 15's done, and maybe even once Game Week 16's done, I know that's 2 more game weeks, right? Could be 2 more red arrows. I've really got a big decision then of what to do with Kane. And if I spread the money around, that is at the point where I can try and get ahead of other people if they're maybe not going for like Man City mids, Man United mids, whoever it is. I might just end up jumping on Ronaldo with everyone else. But I just got to hope over the next couple of weeks I can start to get a few green arrows. And again, I have made some bad decisions. It has taken me a while to catch up with 4 premium defenders and stuff. But also I think I've been a little bit unlucky that Mbomo's blanked that much. A little bit unlucky that Saka's blanked as much as he has. And obviously Harry Kane, what a disaster. So hopefully they can all turn it around in Game Week 15. Hopefully we get some green arrows. I will leave that video there. If you did enjoy it, give it a like and hit that subscribe button. Hopefully that answered a few of the things that you were thinking about. I'll be back tomorrow with a deadline stream. Until then, I will see you later. Enjoy the rest of your Friday.